Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Chris and today I'm talking about an old movie from 1990 called Flatliners, directed by Joel Schumacher. So you may have noticed on the Bad Movie Night channel that I have launched a crowdfunding campaign for a sci-fi horror film called Transient, which you can contribute at maketransient.com. So I thought this week with the launch of this thing, it'd be cool to talk about movies that are related and kind of inspired the story of Transient. And so the first one up is Flatliners. So Flatliners is about a bunch of medical students who do medical school at an art museum or some shit. It's really weird. And they're all extremely wealthy. But anyways, we'll get into all that. And they do this experiment where they basically make themselves brain dead for a certain amount of time so that they can see what comes after death and experience the afterlife. But of course, some supernatural-ish hijinks ensue. I don't even know if it's supernatural. I guess it's not, certainly not natural. Unnatural hijinks? I don't know. Well, maybe it is natural. So, it's a great premise for a movie. Everybody's interested to know what happens after death, obviously. And you have this scientific sort of approach to it, although there's obviously people who have religious and faith in this movie. But I think the premise is a lot stronger than where the story ends up because a lot of it comes out half-baked at some points. But there's tons of positives to this movie. It's incredible looking. It's almost like style over substance, but the problem is that nugget of substance, the premise here, is really cool, and the style kind of overshadows a lot of it in a lot of ways. It makes it weird. Like I said, they're doing surgery and shit, and there's these massive paintings. It looks like an art museum. It's just bizarre. And everywhere they're going in this movie, there's just fog shooting out of every fucking crevice in this city and stuff. It looks awesome. It's very gothic. It's very stylized. It's extremely well shot. I love the look of this movie. But it all feels superficial by the end because the characters aren't very deep. They don't have much nuance. They're very much surface characters. You have Oliver Platt, who's just this comic relief kind of thing. None of the characters are particularly likable except for Kevin Bacon, but who doesn't like Bacon? Both the food and the man. Love him. But he's not even that likable at first, but he comes around. You got Kiefer Sutherland, who I'm not really a big fan of. I think he's a little hokey in this movie. I think he's a little hokey in general. You have a Baldwin brother in here who plays a womanizer, creepster. So a bunch of these people have these horrible things they've done, and you know about them, which paints the characters in an awful light. I mean, everybody has skeletons in their closet of things they regret or things they've definitely done that weren't the nicest. But these people are next level. Kiefer Sutherland fucking murdered a kid when he was a kid. Baldwin? Billy? I don't know which Baldwin it is. Billy Baldwin, I want to say. William Baldwin? It's probably the same Baldwin. But he's making secret sex tapes and cheating on his fiance and stuff. Just terrible shit. So they're not likable characters. And the movie becomes very repetitive, where it's these sequences where they kill the person or make them brain dead and then struggle to bring them back to life. And they do it 3 or 4 times in the movie. And for the first half to 3/4, they just keep going through this process. And it's okay, just get it all done real quick so we can move on to the meaty, interesting part. Because that was a cool, tense sequence the first time, but the 3rd or 4th time, it's just not that interesting because they're all gonna come back. You know they're gonna come back. And so it feels false tension or suspense. But there is some unsettling sequences in this, and a lot, like I said, of the cinematography and stuff is really well done and enjoyable. It's this Hollywood sheen, a budget put on top of a really high level concept, but then that concept is explored at a very base level. And then ultimately, I don't even quite understand how it makes any sense. So, spoiling this movie from 1990 though, but so essentially when you die, you experience the most regretful thing you've done, and because they're brought back, somehow these things they've done wrong also manifest themselves back in their real life and have the ability to physically harm and affect you. I get the guilt aspect. I'm sure because it's something, we probably all have in the back of our heads or something, this unconscious thought of this guilt, and when you're on your deathbed and you're those last moments, will you think about the bad things you've done? Especially if you fucking murdered someone, I assume that would probably be a thought. But I just don't understand how that makes any sense. I'd be okay with it if they weren't able to physically affect you, but it's weird because it just feels kind of cheap, because there's a more thoughtful idea there that could be explored, but I feel like they were worried the audiences wouldn't be able to connect with a story that was a little bit deeper. I don't know though. So like I said, this was a movie that influenced me in my writing for my feature film Transient, because a lot of my movie has to do with guilt and grief and how people live with these decisions they've made and come to terms with them. And so there's a lot of that explored in this movie. A lot of it's kind of surface, like I said, but I love movies that kind of talk about the human condition. Our lives are kind of filled with these things. We all have guilt, we all have grief, and we all have ways that we've come to either atone for those things or, you know, overcome, hopefully. So I like Flatliners quite a bit. I never saw the remake. I have zero interest in seeing the remake. Maybe I'll check it out at some point, but this is a cool movie, especially of the time. If you haven't seen it, I think it's probably worth checking out. It's definitely a really interesting idea here that they looked at. And while the story doesn't quite materialize the way I hoped it would be, there's enough style and cool visual flair to this movie to make it definitely worth checking out. So that's it for Flatliners. Don't let my crowdfunding campaign flatline. It's pretty good, actually. So go to maketransient.com, please, and contribute to the movie. Help us bring this movie to life and help be a part of the team in making that happen, guys. So find out more at maketransient.com. And if you've seen Flatliners and you have thoughts, let me know down below, and I will catch you here next time. Hey guys, it's Chris. I know some of you already have a heads up over the others because you've already liked the video and subscribed to the channel. To me, it's like a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you do that? So like the video, subscribe to the channel, helps us out. Catch you here later, guys. Goodbye.